With games like Devil May Cry 5 and Senran Kagura receiving some sort of censorship causing many people to have mixed opinions, along with changes to content policies on platforms, I really wanted to dive deeper into the topic of mature-rated games receiving censorship. Now, I understand completely that games have to have a rating, due to laws, regulations, and content policies. Of course, different content receives different ratings, that's obvious, but looking at a company like Sony, where people at Sony have come out and said family-friendly is the way to go, I genuinely am curious to really ask the question, why do you think that M-rated games should be family-friendly? That is one of the real questions that I ask and that I raise. And I get it that in specific cases, yes, a game that has a family-friendly reach and also an adult audience reach does have the potential to sell better than maybe a game with one specific reach or one specific audience. But what happens to adults here? What happens to people like you and I? We aren't allowed to have adult games or have specific scenes in games that more lean towards adult-rated, scenes and such. Obviously, adult-rated games aren't lacking in sales. Look at Grand Theft Auto 5. Seriously, Grand Theft Auto 5 is the third best-selling game ever, only of course to be beat by Tetris, because Tetris came out in 1984 and was on so many different systems. I mean, it was sold on a wide range of 1980s home computer platforms, as well as in arcades, and of course its largest sales being the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Game Boy. And then the second game is Minecraft, because Minecraft is available on every modern device. Oh, and you know that I'm going to list off every device to prove a point. PC, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, Xbox 360, Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch, Android devices, iOS devices, the Wii U, even the 3DS. There was even one made for the Raspberry Pi, which I honestly am going to look into after this video because I think that would be an amazing project for me to partake in creating. I saw that instantly and was like, oh, that is straight up my alley. But besides that, the point here is yes, E for Everyone games, when put on multiple systems, sell exceptionally well. But let's look at Grand Theft Auto 5 for a moment here. It was on only 4 modern gaming platforms, and it is nearly at the numbers of something such as Minecraft. 5 Call of Duty games are on the list of the top-selling video games, and every year a new one releases, and every year they are one of the best-selling games of the year. Even with the fact that adult-rated games sell, and no one can say family-friendly games sell better since family-friendly games are always on more platforms, it's the case in point in which these games have an M rating for a reason. As a developer, as a creator, I understand completely if you want to tone down a piece of your work. You think that maybe a situation or a character would come off better to the audience, maybe by showing less skin due to design choices, maybe toning it down a little bit, maybe you went a little crazy, but when companies like Sony force censorship onto a game post-release, all you are doing is shaking the confidence that your consumers have, and the consumers that maybe possibly have purchased for you since the beginning. I mean, these people purchasing these games are obviously in the targeted age range. If someone is younger than that rating, then it was an adult's choice to allow the child to play the game. It's not like they can walk into a store and purchase it themselves. I mean, they can't do that. It's not like they can prove the point that they can have that experience, because they can't. Someone is allowing them to have that experience, and that's what companies need to realize. A game has a direction and is targeted to someone specifically. You can't force change on a game for a different targeted audience, or people that would purchase the game would go elsewhere. You can't pick your audience, and you definitely can't pick family-friendly games in a family-friendly way. I mean, obviously, family-friendly, it does deserve to have its own, a place, but the problem is that so do M games. People that purchase M games are not usually the people that purchase E for Everyone games. Maybe, in some cases they are, but they are two very different audiences, and companies need to realize that different audiences exist. Even if you want it to go one specific way, even if you want to say family friendly deserves a place, your audience is going to go elsewhere. Devil May Cry 5 is an example that I am going to use here. It is a rated mature game that has a lot of violence and a lot of gore, yet female characters have had their butt censored with lights. Lights out of everything. I am pretty sure that someone didn't design a beautiful character and say, yep, with those bright neon lights, that'll be a stunning compliment to the shade of her complexion. Why is it that gore and violence is okay, but something like a woman's figure isn't? Now, of course, with Devil May Cry 5, there has been some controversy on how the mature rated content was listed by the ESRB for Devil May Cry 5, and I actually had emailed the ESRB and asked, do developers, have any input on how ratings and descriptions, specifically descriptions, are made? And they said that they have their own reviewers and they have their own employees that create the descriptions and the ratings of the game. They do not submit the wording for the mature content. It is 100% made by the ESRB, and that means that the version that they tested and reviewed, in a sense, I'm going to say, was censored. So who truly knows if the patches of censorship were meant to be in the game on, initial launch, or if it was changed after the game released? And this is the problem. We don't particularly know, because Capcom has blocked anyone that has specifically asked about this, and of course Sony has not made any comments on it. No other large platform has made any comments on it, surely because they're leaving it up to Capcom, since it is Capcom's creation. And besides game with violence, let's look at fan service games. Look at something like Senran Kagura. If you take the fan service out of a game, there's always an alternative option. If you restrict aspects of the game, then there is always another platform to take your business to. Every game has a rating. The rating is same across the board. Whether it's on one platform or whether it's, on another, it doesn't change anything. And if one platform is forcing censorship upon a game, I as a consumer can figuratively walk across the street to the candy store that doesn't wrap up the candy so I can't see what I'm purchasing. Now, it does seem that Japanese developers are being hit harder with censorship rather than Western developers. We can see this in something like Devil May Cry 5 with Senran Kagura versus a game like The Witcher 3 or Metro Exodus. Now, of course, I do want to say, of course, The Witcher 3 did come out in 2015, but they could have always implemented patches to force censorship upon the game if it was such a problem. Now, if this holds true over time has truly yet to be seen, at least in my opinion, I expect that censorship on Western games could be coming, but only time will truly tell there. In the end, what I am trying to say is that mature-rated games are mature-rated for a reason. If a company wants to show a nude character in a game, there is no reason why they can't. If they didn't want nude characters, they would have put clothing on them, like in the case of Mortal Kombat 11. Let's look at that for just one short moment. They would have changed their art direction in the first place, such as happened with Mortal Kombat 11. Character models and art directions in games have been seeing change lately due to trying to conform to new content policies and possible regulations in other emerging regions, and so their games do not receive forced change. I see this as a continuing trend as content policies grow and that they change, and of course you all can guess that I see no reason why a mature rated game should receive any form of forced change, and I want to know what you think about something like Devil May Cry 5 receiving censored changes post-release. This was more of a rant and a discussion video, so please let me know your thoughts on everything that I've talked about. Please consider checking the links in the description and supporting the channel. I would so appreciate you to join the Dark Titans on Patreon. That is the current platform that I do use for crowdfunding, but please check out the links in the description, consider supporting the channel, and also supporting what I do here on YouTube. It always makes me feel so good to add another member, to our community, but I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys again in the next video very soon.